while shielding his family from the gunfire. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
Feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best.
Welcome back, everybody. Happy Sunday. You're listening to Whatever Works on KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sam Works.
I'm Kyle Kerrigan.
And tonight, it is just the two of us. No, I'm just kidding. We do have Joe in the studio. We do have Kyle's mom out here, so shout out to them supporting us. I know Joe's a huge fan of
Yeah.
Whatever Works.
Yeah, Joe's our number one fan.
Number one, baby.
Yeah.
We want to thank you guys for listening to us and continuing to listen to us. I know a couple people at the restaurant that I work at, they're like, hey, we listened to your show. And, you know, a lot of them got excited. They're like, hey, you got a special guest this week. And I said, yes, we do. Stay tuned. But unfortunately, there's some big events going on this week. And he is a very important person in today's society in this region, in the Inland Empire. So he had to prep for this big event. So we will have him in the near future. But until then, it's just going to be me and Kyle talking about some things that we can all relate to. And hopefully, if you guys want to chime in, you guys can call this number.
888-909-1050. That is 888-909-1050.
And before we get started, we do got to give a shout out to our sponsor,
SNJRadio.com. No negative news, no politics, just feel good music.
And if you guys want to be a part of the show, there's many ways you can do it. You know, you guys can participate by listening in. You guys can participate by calling in. Or, you know, be a sponsor, be part of the show. You guys can be a guest on the show. We do not charge to be on the show. This is for you guys. This is for the people. We believe that everyone should be heard, whether they are young, old, black, white, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. This show is called Whatever Works. So come on down and let's talk about whatever works. Tonight, we're going to be talking about expectations in the beginning. The first 15 minutes of the show, we're going to talk about expectations. I'll explain that in a second. And then I want to talk about knowing yourself. And then I want to talk about how to be organized in life. So it's going to slowly trickle down to being like a serious show. And that's how usually it turns out.
Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, when it's Kyle and I, we start going on little rants and it gets serious, you know. But if you guys want to live it up a little bit, spice it up, you guys can always call in and ask us questions or throw a topic out there. The only topic I want to stay away from, if I'm going to be completely honest, is what happened the other day with Trump and all that. Yeah. Because
events.
You can just open your phone and it's there. You turn on the radio, it's there. You turn on the news, it's there. Like, it's all over. So if this show right now is about everything but that, right? So without further ado, let's jump into it. Expectations. And the reason why I want to talk about expectations is because there's been a lot of expectations that I've been experiencing lately that just that doesn't happen. Okay. So, all right, I'll give you an example. Tell me if you can relate to this, right?
Yeah.
Just as a simple one, like let's say you're throwing darts, right? You're at a buddy's house throwing darts, and you're just like bullseye, 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 and you're like doing so good, and you're like, hey, bro, check it out. And then you've been making bullseyes the whole night, and then as soon as that person looks, you're missing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I swear I was making the bullseyes. They're like, no, you weren't, you know?
Yeah.
So my little trips on the expectations recently is, you know, I've been having trouble with my car. You know, the car has been like stuttering. It's kind of like, you know, jerking me around a little bit. And at one point I was at a stoplight and the car just died on me. You know, so I was like, I got to take my car in. I got to get it fixed.
Sounds like the alternator.
maybe. I don't know. Fuel injectors,
Yeah.
spark plugs. I don't know. Cylinder, maybe. So anyway, so I take my car to the shop. They had it all day. You expect them to find something, right?
Yeah.
I go in there and I say, hey, what's the damage? And they're like, we test drove it twice. Like, we ran the scanner and everything, and there's nothing to be wrong with your car.
That happened to me too.
You know?
That happened to me too.
What exactly happened to you?
Okay, so my OBD2 sensor. So like there's like a sensor that reads codes for the car.
Mhm.
There's a plug-in. Well, that port wasn't working, and
really important.
okay, because I had a check engine light because there was a misfire, and you have to use the sensor to clear it.
Okay.
So it wasn't clearing, and I don't want to be driving an old car with the check engine light on, because if something else happens, I wouldn't know because the light's already on. You know what I mean? So I take it down to my mechanic. He has it for a couple days. I call him. Hey, what's going on? Nothing. So I test drove it. I drove it. Sensor's reading now. So I just cleared it. I said, well, what about the misfires? Was something wrong? She's like, no, it's running good. I was like...
Yeah. And the worst part is, going back to my story, right? So I get the car back. A couple hours later, it starts happening again.
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh, like I got what? Do
Yeah.
I have to take it to a different body shop, or like what do I have to do?
Yeah.
So that's one of the expectation stories that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I have a couple more actually. Let me see here. We didn't have what?
Sensors in my...
We didn't have sensors. So when your car is just screwed, it's just screwed. You don't know what it is. Yeah, it's like an unsolved puzzle.
Yeah, you just had a check engine light, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, so and another expectation that just didn't work out, right? So Thursdays and Saturdays at the restaurant that I work at, I don't want to talk poorly about it because it is an amazing restaurant, but they usually have band nights, right? Every Thursday and Saturday night, they have a live band. It's usually out in the patio. Great music, great bands. And I told my lady, I said, if I ever have a Thursday off, we're gonna go.
Yeah.
We're gonna go sit down. We're gonna have some drinks. We're gonna have amazing food. We're gonna listen to the band.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This last week, I had Thursday off, and she reminded me. She goes, "Oh, are we gonna go to your work? Are we gonna have, food, drinks, and music?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." So I called and I made reservations. And I was like, hey, I need reservations for 2 Thursday night, patio, yada, yada, yada. And they're like, well, actually, it's inside. And you know me, my favorite type of music is like 50s, 60s. I love Frank Sinatra. I love
Yeah.
Dean Martin, right? They
Great
said,
stuff.
yeah. And they said, hey, it's actually inside and it's Sinatra night. So I was like, so in the beginning, I planned of having drinks and like dancing and getting wild. But inside Sinatra night, I'm like, it's going to be more of like just a vibe. Just relax,
Yeah.
have some drinks, kick
Slow
back.
dancing, maybe.
Maybe, And I was
Yeah.
like, this is going to be great, actually.
Yeah.
We're not going to be outside in the heat because it's like been 100 degrees. Last couple of days, it's actually been cooling off, which is nice. But
Yeah.
I was like, sweet. Yeah, put me inside, my favorite server, da-da-da. Take care of it, Sinatra night, right?
Yeah.
We walk in there, and I'm expecting a full band. And it's just like one guy on a keyboard, Yeah, and he has like wires like everywhere. And he wasn't even playing Sinatra.
What was he playing?
I mean, he was playing like Dance in the Moonlight, and he was playing like some...
some classics.
Yeah, some classics,
But no Sinatra.
No Sinatra, no full band. It's just one guy, solo, extension cords everywhere. And like inside was loud. And I was like, ah. So it's like, I went up, I was like, hey, I heard you play Sinatra. He's like, yeah, I usually play Sinatra, but tonight I wanted to mix it up. I was like,
Just like, can you not?
I was like, well, can you play some Sinatra? And he was like, yeah, sure. What do you want to hear? So, fortunately, I requested 2 songs, Nice and Easy and Under My Skin, and he played it. Both great songs, and but like it was just loud in the restaurant, and I just the expectation was high for me,
Yeah.
because when I worked there, high expectations, and it's always satisfying. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and then I've been working there since February, and never once was it inside, and never once was it just one guy, you know?
It happened to be that day that.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah.
like, and she's never been there because she was like, when I go for my first time, I want it to be when it's with you, and you know,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, you know, so
Well, I'm sure it was a good night.
it still was. It
yeah.
was still a good night. The food's always amazing. The
Oh, the
drinks were
champagne
great.
chicken is just amazing.
So she actually, she had the champagne chicken. I always go for the pork chop.
pork chops.
Pork chop's great. And this is what I tell everybody too. I was never a big fan of pork chops. You know,
Oh, yeah.
love my mom, but her pork chops were always like dry or like tough, you know. And I was just like, it steered me away from pork chop.
Yeah.
Went there one time. I had the pork chop. It's a French pork chop, by the way. So like it's bone in, it's thick, it's heavenly seasoned, and they usually cook it medium to medium rare for a pork chop, and it
Yeah.
tastes like a steak.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I promise you guys, if you go,
It melts in your mouth.
it melts in your mouth, and it's like I've
Better
never.
than a steak sometimes.
That's why I never get steaks there. I'm like,
Yeah.
why would I get a steak? Like pork chops, like they're just as good there.
Yeah.
And on Thursdays also they have a grilled peach balsamic glazed pork chop. So not even just the pork chop itself. It has balsamic glaze on top with a grilled peach. I'm like, oh, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite. So luckily I got to have that. Got to have some drinks. It was good. It's called the Tartan. If you guys were wondering, go to the
Yeah.
Tartan Thursday, Saturday nights. They have band nights. They switch it up. This last weekend they had the Decades. Awesome band.
Oh, the Decades is amazing.
dude,
yeah.
they're amazing.
Yeah.
They sang this song, "Hopelessly Devoted to You."
Oh yeah. They kill that.
Oh, dude, I was like, I really don't like covers.
Yeah.
Like, I like the original, like, you know, songwriter, singer, and all that stuff. But that when he was singing it, bro, I was like,
Oh yeah. No, Ryan is an amazing singer.
dude, it wasn't even Ryan though. It was the other guy. I don't even know his name.
Oh, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, because it was just great though.
Yeah.
Brought me chills, dude. Like up my body.
Shout out to Ryan and the Decades, by the way, because you know I knew Ryan when he was at Clash, and he was in the Fab Four, which was a Beatles cover band,
Yeah.
and then every Halloween he does this band called Skella Fuzz,
Skellafuzz. Okay.
and it's like and then they do like those 80s
Right. Those
like,
80s hits, those Halloween hits. And
yeah,
stuff.
like Oingo Boingo and stuff like that.
Thriller and everything.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so
Actually, Ryan, I usually do not get embarrassed too much because
yeah.
I can handle myself for the most part. But he embarrassed me, not in a bad way, but he was like, give it up to the Tartan, give it up to your servers, and he's like, give it up to Sam, the like best looking man out here, yada yada yada. We call him Superman, and then, and I was just like, like my body language, like at first I waved to everybody, everyone's like cheering for me, and then I kind of I started to walk away, like I almost walked inside just naturally because I was like, that's a lot of,
It's a lot of people looking at you.
yeah, and I was like, I didn't expect that. Like, thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. Oh, he's awesome though.
Yeah, he's great. That whole band is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna try to get Decades when we bring Clash back.
Yeah. They played Friday night too because they had a dinner recital for a wedding, and they hired the Decades to play, and then Saturday they played again the following night, and every time they play, it's fully booked.
Oh yeah.
It's a great time. Anyways, it is 15 minutes past the hour. If you guys are just tuning in and you're listening to Whatever Works on KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM, it's me and Kyle here. We're just talking about expectations,
Yeah.
And there was some other ones that came around, and now we kind of went off on a tangent, so it's kind of hard to bring myself back. But switching on to other topics of discussion, unless you have another expectation that happened just in general or just things.
Dude, throughout like my dad will tell you our family name expectations always gets ruined
Really?
always we always have the worst luck when it comes to things. Yeah, whether it's tickets, whether it's we can't get out of them.
Right.
If it's a situation, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It rolls through.
And you know what? We all have experienced having
Yeah.
expectations and having it not go through. Right.
Right.
Like stuff happens in life.
Right.
And I've kind of been like ingrained in my mental state and in my personality to where like, hey, if things don't happen the way they should, or in my head in the way they should, it's okay. Like
Yeah.
you can't complain every single time things don't go according to plan.
Right, yeah.
Because when was the last time something actually went according to plan?
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
And so I just keep pushing, but a lot of
Yeah.
times people around me, they get mad when they expect something and something doesn't happen, and I'm just like, I just kind of like throw it to the side.
Yeah.
But then they get mad at me because they're like, how are you not like
Taking it seriously. Or
yeah,
like,
exactly?
whatever.
And I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, stuff happens, you
Yeah.
know, like
That's how my dad is.
Yeah.
You know? But sometimes it does get to him. Have you ever had an expectation like happen in the morning, like fail, and then like little things go wrong?
just domino effect. It just trickles down in your whole day.
And it's like on like the grand scheme, like it's as small, like real small. And then it's just so much bigger because of that thing that happened.
Okay, give me an example.
Okay. So, I left my, so I'm a property inspector and I have a roof pole, which I take roof pictures. I left it at a property and I was already 30 minutes away. So I had to drive back, reschedule that appointment. So that's one. I had to
Okay.
reschedule the appointment. Then, you know, obviously they were a little irritated. And, you know, so reschedule it till later. And then I drive back because now I have a little time for my next appointment. And they're like, hey, I need you to come sooner. And I'm just like,
Can't do that.
I was like, I'll be there in like 45 minutes, which is like 15 minutes past what you're asking me. And so I get there, and I'm inspecting the house because it's an interior and exterior. So I'm inspecting the whole house, and they're gone. Like, nowhere to be seen. And so now I'm in someone's house by myself, which is a no-no for the, you know, for legal reasons. You know, like whenever I'm doing an interior inspection, they have to be over 18 and they have to either know the policyholder or they have to be a property management company. Well, they're gone. They're like, so like the reason why we had to like reschedule sooner is because this came up, this, whatever. Well, they just left without locking the whole house up. So I'm calling them, they're not answering. And so I'm like, what do I do? Do I just lock the door? So I call my manager. My manager got replaced. Just found this out.
Who do I talk to?
So I was like, so I call another manager who was in the meeting. So I'm just like, so I call my customer service. So, hey, this is happening. And they're like, well, the first person I talked to hung up on me because they're like, you have to call your manager first. But before I could explain,
You're like, no,
I'm
hear
like-
me out.
so I had to call again. So I had to call again. Luckily, they heard me out. And they're like, oh, okay, well, you're just going to have to wait there.
You had to wait until the clients came back to the house?
Or give me direction.
Okay.
And so finally they called back. And now the ones that rescheduled till later that I rescheduled, now that time is approaching. And I have to drive to that location too. So now I have to so now I call them again.
Yeah. And did they answer this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they answer and I'm like, "Hey, this is what's happening." And they're like, "Well, this is not, you know, this is out of your control. I understand. We're just got to reschedule for another day." 2 minutes later, I get a call, and they come back. So now I give them a call again, the other people.
It's a runaround, dude.
Dude, and it's just like, it's little things, right?
Uh-huh.
It's just phone calls and like,
Yeah.
you know, forgetting stuff. I call them again. They're like, so you can make it. I'm just like, yes. How far away are you? 30 minutes. Not going to work. So I had to reschedule it.
Man. Talk about not knowing the expectations.
And
know?
then every once in a while, my car dies at a stoplight
Mm.
because my air filter or whatever it's not seated properly. So my car died that day. It happens every few months.
Really?
It died that day.
Just when you think nothing else can go wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's just that compound interest of just like almost like bad luck, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, Timmy has this story. Yeah. So, not that like I believe in this like type of stuff, but just for fun, you know, if I'm going over like a railroad track, I put my feet up, you know, while I'm in the car. And I told Timmy one time, I said, "Hey, if you put your feet up over the railroad track, it's good luck." Right? And so he goes over a railroad track, he puts his feet up, right? Boom. Now he has to go to work. All right. You know this story?
No.
Okay, so he was a soil driller. Okay, so they put him in sites 4 hours away or whatever the case may be, and then they drill the soil to test it and make sure that, you know, a company can build a foundation or, you know, make sure the soil is safe. And so immediately after he put his feet over the railroad tracks, he gets there and their machine broke, right? And it was like a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, well, that sucks. So what do we do? He's like, oh, you guys go back home. He's like, okay. So he's driving, and it was like, this was a couple years ago, and it was during the summer, so it was hot, over 100 degrees. And then his tire blew out, right? So now he's over on the side of the road, 4 hours away, and it's hot, and they're just sitting there waiting for a tow truck to come, and nothing happens, right? So he's waiting for hours. And so eventually, tow truck comes, they give him a new tire or whatever the case was, and he's driving back, and then he gets pulled over. He gets pulled over because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
No, you did tell me that.
Yes, and then he got a ticket for that. You know? And like in his mind, it's all because I put my feet up over the railroad track. You know? But it's just like, it's funny because we have like these days where it starts off bad and it just continues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like for me, I never go on my phone in the morning because I know if I start off going on my phone, the whole day is just going to be horrible.
Right.
You know? So it's when it comes to like this bad domino effect, those are the expectations that actually happen. Mm-hmm. You know? But when you have like these good expectations, it's just not quite there.
Right.
You know? And so it's just kind of, it's weird in my mind, into where a phrase that everyone can understand, like the way the universe works.
Yeah.
You know, because you have high expectations, usually never comes through, and then something bad happens and it kind of just like trickles throughout the day.
Yeah.
You know, but that's when people say, oh, like, you know, fill in the blank, karma's up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I say karma's a mirror. That's what I say.
Yeah.
You know, because if you put good in throughout your day, sometimes you get good back. But it's not like, hey, I gave $1, so I get $1. It's like, hey, I gave $1, and then next you know, like someone gave me a free ice cream or something. You know what I mean? Like it's not like
always something.
It's not a tooth for a tooth. You know, it's like it's just one for one.
Yeah.
You know, so if
I agree with that.
It's like karma debt too. You know, like a horrible person will eventually get what they deserve. You know, a good person eventually get what they deserve. You know what I mean?
It's always such a great feeling, like seeing something come to light that you were waiting for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can you give an example?
So here's the thing. I actually just told the story to you guys outside. Well, we had this guy that would come and snoop out the ATM at Valero. I used to work on a Valero. And if you don't know, some of them, well, actually, it's probably like 97% of them. The grates that come down go into the foundation. So they're steel. Like it's like rebar.
Right.
But like it's like a solid core rebar. And they broke in. So I closed at midnight, driving home, see a whole bunch of cops pass me by. Didn't think nothing of it. I thought it was like, oh, something's happening.
Just another day.
So it turns out they were going to my work. So, those guys that were snooping out the ATM drove to the Valero with a chain and a Chevy S10, and they hooked up the S10 to like the, you know, like the ball and the axle, and to the ATM. They broke into the store, wrapped around the ATM, and when they tried to drive away, because of the rebar, their truck split in half.
Oh.
And they flew into like the garbage place, or like the garbage receptacle, which was like, you know, like a stucco foundation enclosed.
Mm-hmm.
So they destroyed like the whole stucco thing.
Wow.
So they destroyed the front end of their truck and ripped their truck in half at the axle. So the car is like totaled.
Yeah, gone completely.
Yeah. And so I had to drive back and give an assessment. Hey, do you remember seeing these two? You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and they showed me pictures. I was like, yeah, those guys came in earlier, snooping around the store. They tried to steal
They didn't
stuff.
buy anything, you know?
You know, it's always like the people who just like snoop, which is whatever. You know, maybe you don't have something, or we don't have something that you want, so you just leave. But there's a difference between, like, you could tell the body language, right?
Right.
They're scoping it out.
Scoping, not window shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you know, I could take this, take that, you know, whatever. And they'll leave, and then it's always something that happens.
Yeah, no, that is crazy. All right, you guys, before I forget or before I get told by someone else, we are going to take a 5-minute break so we can continue our conversation. We're actually going to change the subject when we come back from our 5-minute break. So stay tuned. Stick around if you guys are driving. You know, just turn around, do something. But if you guys are listening on all the other platforms like Instagram or YouTube Live or whatever, hey, stick around. We'll be back in 5 minutes, guys. You're listening to Whatever Works on KCAA. I'm Sam Works.
I'm Kyle Kagan.
And we'll be right back.
When in dark, walk around the neighborhood, feeling blessed.
Corporate ideologues never cease blathering that government programs should be run like a business. Really? What business would they choose? Pharmaceutical profiteers? Big oil? Wall Street money manipulators? High-tech billionaires? Airline price gougers? The good news is that the great majority of people aren't buying this corporate blather. Instead, valuing institutions that prioritize the common good. Thus, by a 2-to-1 margin, Americans have stunned smug right-wing privatizers by specifically declaring in a recent poll that our U.S. Postal Service should not be run like a business. Indeed, an overwhelming majority, including half of Republicans, say mail delivery should be run as a, quote, public service, even if that costs more. In fact, having proven that this 246-year-old federal agency can consistently and efficiently deliver to 161 million homes and businesses day after day, it's time to let the agency's trusted, decentralized, well-trained workforce provide even more services for our communities. How about postal banking? Yes, the existing network of some 31,000 post offices in metro neighborhoods and small towns across America are perfectly situated and able to provide basic banking services to the 1 out of 4 of us who don't have or can't afford bank accounts. The giant banking chains ignore these millions, leaving them at the mercy of check-cashing exploiters and payday loan sharks. The post office can offer simple, honest banking, including small-dollar checking and savings accounts, very low-interest consumer loans, low-fee debit cards, etc. The goal of postal banking is not to maximize corporate profits, but public service. This is Jim Hightower saying, we the people own this public asset. To enable it to work even better for us, go to agrandalliance.org.
Have you had your insurance policy canceled or non-renewed? Tune into Insurance Hour with host Carl Sussman. Carl takes your questions live and helps you understand what you can do. Call 559-656-0317 or email your questions to questions@insurancehour.com. If you need someone right away, dial pound 250 and use keyword insurance. Insurance Hour is the only radio show syndicated across California, reaching more than 30 million listeners. If you miss the show live, you can find it on YouTube or your favorite podcast application.
Eat bread, lose weight. That's right. Eat bread, lose weight. Hello, everybody. I'm Joseph from Joseph's Organic Bakery. We offer ancient grain bread from the Bible. That's right. Ancient grain bread from the Bible. We stone grind daily, ferment using sourdough, and bake that same day. Everything is then shipped fresh to our customers nationwide. So if you're interested in feeling good, improving your digestion, knocking down your blood pressure, and balancing your blood sugar, pick up the phone, give us a call, 954-541-4062, 954-541-4062, or you can order online, veganbakerymiami.com, veganbakerymiami.com.
Tune in to The Ferran Dozier Show. Music Marketplace in Time, the soundtrack to life. Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCAA Radio. Playing the hottest hits and the coolest conversations. Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on The Ferran Dozier Show. With an array of music, talk, sports, community outreach, and veteran resources. With hits from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today's hits. The Ferran Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, on all available streaming platforms, and 106.5 FM and 1050 AM. The Ferran Dozier Show on KCAA Radio.
Feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Whatever Works on KCAA 1050 AM and Express 106.5 FM. I'm your host, Sam Works.
I'm Kyle Kerrigan.
Man, if you guys are just tuning in, the first half of the show is really good. We're talking about expectations not happening. You know what I mean? To give some examples, you know, your car is acting funny, you take it to the shop, and then once you take it there, it works perfectly fine, you know. And then, or you're having fun with your friends and you're doing something, you're doing really good, and as soon as you want them to look, you know, you missed the shot or something, you know. So it was a pretty good, uplifting first half of the show. Now it's time to get serious. No, I'm just kidding. So I have a couple jobs, but one of my bosses, he was like, hey, he's like, do you drink? I was like, yeah, I drink. He's like, let's go get a beer. Let's plan for it sometime this week. I said, okay. And the whole reason why he wanted to meet up is so we can man to man, you know, not employee to boss or anything like that. Just trying to figure out who I am, you know, like who Sam Works. And we hung out and we had a couple drinks and we talked for roughly around like 2 hours.
That's good. Yeah.
And he was like, I still don't know who you are. He said this whole time when I wanted you to talk about yourself, you were talking about other people.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a natural conversation. I wasn't trying to steer myself away from anything like that. But in reality, he was like, well, what's fun to you? You know, like, what do you like to do? And the answers I was giving him, he was like, didn't expect any of those answers.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm saying this is because most people don't truly know who they are.
Right.
I know we had Ferran on a while ago, and I said, who is Ferran? Yeah. Ferran gave us a legitimate answer, and I really liked it, but it was so long ago. I don't even know what it was. But like, if I asked you, I say, like, who is Kyle? Who's Kyle Kerrigan? Yeah. Well, you can't say, well, I'm Kyle. Like, no, that's your name. You know, like, who are you? Yeah. Not what do you do? Not what your name is. You know what I mean? Like, who are you? Who are you as a person? And my boss was like, look, I know so much about what you do. He's like, but if I was at your funeral, I wouldn't know what to say about who you are, not what you do. I can go on like, oh, Sam did this, Sam, you know that, but I wouldn't be able to tell people who you are.
Yeah.
And he wanted to have this conversation with me because he was like, hey, in business, if people are struggling in business, it's usually tied with personal problems, you know? And I do a lot of things, and he wants me to thrive in this particular career.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to find out, like, is there anything in his personal life that's keeping him from thriving as much as he expects? Another part of expectations.
Yeah. Trying, yeah.
You know? And I brought this up to somebody. He's an older guy, and, you know, he seems to know a lot, I guess. And it was funny when I was telling him just to start, he was like, he's a narcissist.
Who, you?
Well, no, my boss. And I was like, really?
Oh.
And because, like, this is how it starts, right? We went up and I brought some beers, and he pulled out a bottle of whiskey. And he was like, oh, I got this as a gift. And I was like, well, shouldn't you be sharing that with the person who gifted it to you? You know what I mean? Just as, like, in my mind, that's what I would do. Like, if you gave me, like, a bottle of whiskey, like, I would share it with you.
Yeah.
You know? But he's like, no. So he was thinking about himself, right? And then during the conversation, he was like, Sam, you need to be more selfish. Like, you need to do what you need to do, what you want to do. You know, like I said earlier, like, the whole time we were talking, like, you were talking about other people, like, but, like, that's what makes him such a great, like, being a narcissist is not a horrible thing. Okay?
Depends.
If it's abused, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But a narcissist thinks about themselves, okay? Which, if you don't think about yourself, then what are you thinking about? You know what I mean? Like, if you're not self-reflecting, then that's another big one. You know, because I always talk about self-reflecting, like, people need to self-reflect. But when I was talking to him, I was like, maybe I'm self-projecting. Like, maybe I should be self-reflecting.
Yeah.
You know? And so, like, the biggest topic this whole week about me was, like, okay, who am I? Like, what do I really like to do? You know, because he asked me, he's like, Sam, what's fun?
Yeah.
And I was like, can I tell you what's not fun?
Oh, see?
You know? And I was like, you know what's not fun? Missing your bills. You know, not being able to take a girl out on a date. You know? Like, but realistically, like, I enjoy working. You know, if I go on a vacation, no more than 3 days. Dude, like, after the third day, I want to go back to work.
Oh, dude,
you know?
I need at least a week.
And it's like, bro, if I check off boxes every day, like, I feel good about myself. He's like, what gets your dopamine going? Like, what makes you feel good? I was like, checking off my boxes.
Yeah.
You know? I was like working and doing what I need to do, because every day there's always something to do.
Right.
There's always people that need you. There's always work that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I built this, like, mentality, like, myself. I did it on my own.
Right.
You know what I mean? But now it's like I can't really get away from that. So my thoughts are towards other things and other people, and not about myself. He was like, dude, you're gonna overwork yourself. And I was like, you know, the brightest star tends to burn out the fastest.
Yeah.
Right. And at one point, I went to the doctors because I had, like, hives all over my body.
Stress.
But I didn't know that. You know, like, mentally, I was like, I'm fine. But, like, physically, my body was, like, freaking out. Like, it didn't know what to do.
You know, I actually had a similar experience, and I've slowed down because of it. I was playing, you know, video games, because that's what I do sometimes. You know, I have friends online, and I check in with them every once in a while. Then my chest started hurting, like, really bad, and I had trouble breathing. So I go to my dad. I say, hey, what is this? He says, you might be having a heart attack.
Wow.
So I drive to the hospital, because I'm just like, and I tell them, I think I'm having a heart attack. So they put a whole bunch of, like, EKGs, and they put me up, and my blood pressure, they can't bring it down. And it's like, they're like, well, depending on what your EKG is, I'm going to be real with you. You might be having a heart attack. If you are, I'm going to give you steps so it's easier, but it's going to be hard. And he comes back, he goes, EKGs are fine. So I said, well, why? What's going on? Like, I'm in pain. Everything feels shallow. Like, I have, like, tunnel vision. And my chest is in pain, like, right where my heart is. Like, I can feel the shape of my heart in my body. I'm just like, there's, like, and someone else came in, a specialist. They're like, well, let me just talk about it, you know. Are you stressed at home? Are you, and they're going down the list. Are you abused? You know, whatever. They're going down the list, and they're like, this doesn't sound like a heart attack. This sounds like a panic attack. And I've never had one of those before. And so they're like, well.
Joe has. He was like, yup. He said, I could have told you that.
Yeah.
I could have diagnosed you.
And so they're like, if you're having your first panic attack, you know, you have anxiety, and then typically the smartest people will overthink it, you know, depending on what brain type you are, whatever. You know, like you kind of overthink it. So then so the panic goes to stress, and the stress goes to anxiety. And it's all like, and what's weird is I was like having fun. I was playing video games when it happened. They're like, well, there's something in you that's like in the back of your head that you're stressed about, and that's what happened. And so I had to take a look and really look at myself, and because at the time I was a manager at Leslie's, and I was tailoring to my team, and I was overworking hours. They both got COVID. Both my employees got COVID, so I worked 24 days straight. From 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 3 days out of the week, and then it was 9 to 5 the rest of the time. And then, so it was just like a mix of that, and then I went through a breakup, and then it was just everything hitting at once. But instead of like taking things one at a time, I just put them all away and played video games. Instead of like trying to figure it out. And so that's the thing. So I figured things out one at a time before I go have fun. And, you know, every once in a while, you know, you do need to let loose, like have a day to yourself, like either go to a spa or go golfing, whatever you like. You know, like just hanging out, having drinks with your coworkers or whatever. Yeah. And so, but it was just like I wasn't doing that. And the one time I did, it all caught up. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so
I think the hardest part for me is when I do go drinking, and it's with my buddies. Like I just start talking about like business ideas. You know, like it's so hard for me to.
Hey, Timmy's the same way.
Yeah. But his is like he's a big dreamer.
Yeah.
Which is not bad at all, because most people, there's a saying that was like most people, like some people die when they're 80, but most people die like when they're 20 but don't get buried until they're 80. So like basically like people stop dreaming.
Right.
You know, they just start working and they're just moving day to day, but they don't have a vision anymore, or like they don't have goals that like exceed themselves. Because like, you know that saying, it's aim for the stars, land on the moon.
Yeah.
You know, most people are just
aiming for the moon,
aiming down the street.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Down the street, aiming for the tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and it's I see that more and more in the younger generation.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I don't want anyone to give up.
Right.
And for me, it's like people tell me, hey, dude, slow down, like relax. But it's so hard for me to relax.
Right.
You know, and I'm just trying to organize my life right now. Like I'm 24. It's chaotic.
Yeah.
It's chaos. But I think a quote that I heard last week that really helps me is that growth comes from chaos.
Yeah.
Not order.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And I just thought, to me, I thought that was inspiring. You know?
Yeah, no, it's true.
Like, some people need some real, like, joyful inspiration.
Yeah.
And for me, my inspiration is like,
Because of stress, right?
yes.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
And that's when my boss was like, you're strange. I'm like, I know. You know? And like, that was, just kind of wrapped it up from there, you know? And he was like, you need to figure yourself out,
Yeah.
you know, because I'm doing 20 million things, trying to do it all at the same time, you know?
Yep.
And it's kind of like, the best example I can give is you have a pitcher of water and like 10 cups, and you're trying to fill up every cup to the fullest, but you can't do that. You can fill up 1 cup, maybe 2 cups, you know?
Yeah.
And the moral of the story is like just trying to focus on a few things rather than everything that you can get your hands on.
Right.
Because you put 100% effort every day, but if you put that same 100% units of effort into 10 different things, then it's 10% effort in each one, not 100%. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, so like what I think it is, you know, just task management or priority management.
Priority management, and he says, dude, you got a lot of things that you just got to cut off. You know, cut off some fat.
Yeah.
You know, that's literally what he said. He said, cut off some fat, dude, because it's weighing you down. And I was like, yeah, I understand, you know? And I do. But it's like, I feel like everything that I have that I'm doing kind of ties in together, and it's very important.
Yeah.
You know, there's not many things that I can trim in my life, you know?
Yeah.
I think I trimmed all the bad things, you know? I stopped.
Oh, seeing where you came from, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know?
You know?
But no, me too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the things that I can relate to you about. We both cut off a lot of fat.
Yeah.
You know?
I went to breakfast with my mom the other day. We went to Cafe Royale. We dropped off my sister at 4 a.m. at the airport, and I was like, hey.
Oh, so she's going back to Galveston?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, it's early in the morning. We're both awake. We can go grab some coffee and, like, you know, because my mom, that's what she likes to do. She always calls me like, hey, you want to grab some coffee, like super early in the morning. But I'm like, the moment I wake up, I'm already doing something. And so I was like, hey, it's early in the morning. Let's grab some coffee, you know. So we did that, and we talked for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. And a lot of it was, you know, when we were younger, we all went through a stage of where my mom was praying. And I'm like, I was like, Mom, we made you pray. That's awesome. You know what I mean? But it was like, she was praying because she was worried about JC. She was worried about Timmy. She was worried about me. And I was like, well, at least we all like grew up from that.
Yeah.
You know, because it was a crazy time for all. We all go through crazy times.
Yeah.
You know, and like each time they're probably all crazy, but in its own way.
Right.
You know, you might have a period of time where it's all about health or all about financing or all about like relationships and stuff like that. Like, we all go through tough times throughout our whole entire lives.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when people really need to realize, okay, it's always going to be tough, but as long as I get stronger, you know, build strength.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about life itself. Like, it's always going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
And everyone's going through it.
You don't even want an easy life. And I'll tell you why, dude. Having like, imagine going to Disneyland, right? 0 lines. Or like, that sounds nice, right? But then like you hop on the ride and then you boom. Like, how long, you can't really appreciate the ride if you just like hop on and get off.
Right.
You can go on a couple times, get that thrill, but then you'll get over it so quick.
Well, it's the lines, you know, because like the longer the line, then you're like, well, this ride must be hot.
Right.
You
it
know,
better be worth it, you know, and things like that.
And then you go on it and it is,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see everyone in line.
Right.
They're about to see the same thing
Yeah.
I just did.
And like another example, okay?
Yeah.
For people who don't fast, all right, if you're just eating all the time, 24/7, fast for a day, your next meal is going to taste so good.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
You know, because your body's craving it, it's hungry, you haven't had it in a while. But like
Yeah.
the struggle really makes you appreciate life, makes you appreciate people,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so like having an easy life will not be fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Either the end of this month or the beginning of next month, I'm gonna try to do a 3-day fast.
A 3-day fast?
I have it lined up.
That's
Well-
kind of crazy.
Well, here's the thing. I have a lot of body fat.
Mm.
And when you're hungry, your body eats the body fat.
Right.
And so, you know, whether you're eating protein or trans fats, whatever, your body goes to that fuel first. If you're a junk food eater, your body will eat that first and you retain the fat.
Mm.
And so I need to cut this fat. And so I'm going to do cardio and put a little salt in the water.
Mm.
You know, electrolytes.
Yeah.
And then the second and third day, I'm going to incorporate juices.
Nice. Okay.
You know, like natural orange juice,
Right.
cranberry juice.
And honestly, fasting, one of the benefits of fasting, like he was talking about, like when your body starts to go in starvation mode, it needs to eat, right? So it starts to eat itself, but it starts to eat all the bad things first.
Yeah.
So all the cancer cells and all the fats that he was talking about. And so that's a benefit. It clears up your skin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so fasting does have a lot of benefits. And there's a quote that I like, and it's kind of hard to like understand it, but a good man is not a good man when he's good.
Yeah.
Right?
I get that.
So like just because someone's like, imagine meeting someone, they're like super nice, you know, they're very fruitful, but that's because life is easy for them, you know?
Yeah.
Fasting really kind of like, it's a transparency. So like if you're fasting, you're hungry, like you're going to be hangry. Like don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? You're going to have like an attitude, like, I haven't eaten all day. Like I'm kind of, you know, you're rude a little bit, or you have like, you're irritated a lot quicker. But like, it kind of shows you who you are.
Right.
Like if someone, like again, just try to break down that quote. Like a good man is not a good man just because, like not when he's good. You know, you have to like, when you're going through a test, like a testimony, going through adversity, like it shows you who you are and like who you can become, you know?
Yeah.
And that's another thing about living a comfortable lifestyle, you know? And that's my motivation, is like that stress.
Yeah.
You know, so like another good motivation, inspiration is like, instead of like having me take care of you, I'm going to take care of myself so you can, like, I don't know that exact quote, but it's like, if I'm not taking care of myself for you, you know, and if I'm just like you have to grow within yourself to help other people.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then how are you going to help them?
You have to have those life experiences to reflect them. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I'm all about adversity.
Yeah, me too.
That's about it.
Pass it on.
But we do want to thrive in life, and we do want to be happy. I'm not saying you can't be happy, but again, you got to look internally.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just be happy when you get like a brand new car or whatever like that. Like you got to be happy within, you know.
Right.
I always tell my lady, hey, you're a boat in the ocean. You can't let the waves sink you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because life is always going to be tough.
Yeah.
You can always find a reason to be mad, and you can always find a reason to be happy.
You know what's
It's
funny?
your choice.
And this is how I think that older people are more wiser. Remember all the problems you thought you had when you were 19. And now look at the problems you have now. And you think, oh, it's never going to get worse. And then you'll be 32.
It always gets worse.
And it's worse. And then you'll be 40.
Yeah.
And it's worse. And it's just the life experience.
Yeah. Work on strength, guys. That's what
Strength,
it is.
yeah.
Mental strength, physical strength, emotional, spiritual, all that good stuff. Build yourself. All right, you guys, we're going to be clocking out pretty soon, but stick around for the Farhan Show. We'll see you guys next week with a guest.
Yeah.
Who's our guest next week?
Next week we have
Farhan. What do we have? It's
I think it's Cam Gnarly, but we'll have to confirm.
okay. We'll confirm it, guys. Stay tuned. Stay blessed. Stick around for the Farhan Show.
Like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood, feeling blessed.